Hey everyone, tonight we're stepping way back in time. Not just a few centuries or even millennia, but 5 million years into our ancient past. Before cities, before agriculture, before written language, before everything we consider civilization. We're diving into something that might surprise you about our earliest ancestors. Their family bonds were stronger, more complex, and more sophisticated than you might imagine. If you're enjoying this journey into our prehistoric roots, I'd really appreciate a quick like or even a subscribe. It helps, more than you know. And I'm always curious where you all are tuning in from, so drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. I love seeing our global community connect through these stories about our shared human heritage. Now settle in, maybe grab a warm drink, and let's travel back together to a time when survival meant everything, and family meant survival. We're exploring how our ancestors lived, loved, and built the very foundations of human society 5 million years ago. Congratulations! You've just awakened in East Africa 5 million years ago. The sun is rising over vast savannas dotted with acacia trees, and you're not alone. Around you, a small group of early hominids is stirring to life. These are your people, your family, your entire world. The good news is, you're part of something remarkable. A social structure so sophisticated, it would lay the groundwork for every human society that followed. The challenging news is that every day is a test of survival, cooperation, and the bonds that hold your clan together. Your family isn't just the people you live with. It's your insurance policy, your defense system, your education network, and your entire support structure rolled into one. There are no governments, no institutions, no safety nets, except the ones you create together. Every relationship matters. Every alliance could mean the difference between thriving and becoming another forgotten branch on the evolutionary tree. The first thing you notice as consciousness returns is the sound. Not the mechanical hum of a modern life, but something far more primal. The soft grunts and calls of your clan members communicating in ways that won't fully develop into language for millions of years. These aren't random noises. They're the soundtrack of cooperation, the musical foundation of human society being composed in real time. Your group consists of maybe 15 to 20 individuals, not too large to strain resources, not too small to defend against predators or survive lean times. This number isn't accidental. It's been refined through countless generations of trial and error, success and extinction. Groups that grew too large split apart under resource pressure. Groups that stayed too small disappeared when disease or accident struck. Your clan represents the survivors, the ones who found that sweet spot of social organization. As you rise from your sleeping spot, you become aware of the intricate web of relationships surrounding you. The elderly female nearby isn't just old, she's the repository of generations of survival knowledge. Which plants are safe to eat during drought? Where to find water when the obvious sources dry up? How to read the behavior of predators and prey? Her value to the group isn't measured in her physical strength, which has long since peaked, but in the accumulated wisdom that could save everyone's life. The young adult male checking the perimeter isn't just being vigilant, he's demonstrating his worth to the group, proving that he deserves his share of resources and perhaps the attention of potential mates. His actions are part performance, part genuine protection, and entirely essential to the group's survival. Every member understands that their individual fate is tied to the collective well-being. Children in your clan don't just play. They're engaged in the most important education system ever developed. Through games that look like simple fun, they're learning the skills that will keep them alive. Mock hunting expeditions teach them to work together, to read each other's intentions, to coordinate complex activities without formal language. Their laughter and squeals aren't just joy. They're the sound of future survival skills being programmed into developing minds. The pregnant female resting in the shade represents both hope and vulnerability. Her condition makes her less mobile, more dependent on group protection, but she carries the future. Everyone in the clan has a stake in her well-being, because genetic survival depends on successful reproduction. The attention she receives isn't charity, it's investment in tomorrow. Food sharing in your clan follows rules so complex they won't be fully understood by anthropologists for millions of years. Who gets the choicest portions isn't random or based purely on strength. Age matters. Contribution to the group matters. Relationships matter. The successful hunter doesn't just gorge himself while others watch. He distributes meat in ways that strengthen alliances, reward cooperation, and maintain the social bonds that make hunting possible in the first place. This isn't altruism as modern humans might understand it. It's enlightened self-interest, refined over millions of years of evolution. Those early hominids whose ancestors learned to share, cooperate, and maintain complex social relationships were the ones whose genes survived. The selfish individuals, the ones who tried to go it alone or exploit others without giving back, left no descendants. Your clan represents the winners in this ancient social experiment. Territory management reveals another layer of sophistication in your prehistoric society. Your group doesn't just wander randomly across the landscape. You follow established routes, return to proven resource sites, and maintain relationships with neighboring clans that allow for peaceful coexistence or mutual defense when necessary. These aren't formal treaties written on paper. They're understood agreements passed down through generations, enforced through memory and tradition. The boundaries your clan respects aren't marked with fences or signs. They're remembered through stories, landmarks, and shared experiences. That watering hole where the great drought was survived. The grove of fruit trees where alliances were formed with neighboring groups. The rocky outcrop that provides shelter during storms. Each location carries social and emotional weight that helps maintain order without formal law enforcement. Conflict resolution in your prehistoric family requires skills that modern mediators would recognize. When disagreements arise, and they do, the group can't afford to split apart or descend into violence that weakens everyone. Older, respected members intervene. Compromise is found. Relationships are repaired, because broken relationships mean broken survival chances. These early conflict resolution systems weren't based on abstract principles of justice or fairness as modern legal systems attempt. They were grounded in practical necessity. Whatever solution kept the group together and functional was the right solution. If that meant the stronger individual had to yield to maintain harmony, so be it. If it meant extra resources went to the injured party to restore balance, that worked too. Justice wasn't blind. It was survival-focused. Communication in your clan operates on multiple levels simultaneously. The obvious grunts, calls, and gestures carry immediate practical information. Danger approaching, food discovered. Come here. Go there. But underneath this utilitarian layer runs something more complex. Emotional communication that builds and maintains the social bonds holding everyone together. Grooming sessions that look like simple hygiene maintenance are actually sophisticated social networking events. Who grooms whom, for how long, and in what order reveals the current state of relationships within the group. Alliances are strengthened. Tensions are reduced. Social hierarchies are negotiated and maintained without overt conflict. The touching, the shared glances, the subtle positioning during rest periods all carry meaning. They're the prehistoric equivalent of social media, constantly updating everyone on relationship statuses, mood changes, and alliance shifts. Miss these subtle communications, and you might find yourself isolated when you need support most. Learning in your clan happens through immersion rather than formal instruction. Young ones don't attend schools or receive lectures about proper behavior. They absorb knowledge by watching, imitating, and gradually being included in adult activities. The apprenticeship model that will eventually develop in human societies already exists in primitive form. A juvenile interested in tool-making shadows the expert napper, watching how stones are selected, how force is applied, how the resulting edges are tested. Mistakes are corrected gently because harsh criticism could damage the social bonds that make learning possible. Success is celebrated because it represents not just individual achievement, but group advancement. This learning system produces remarkable results. By adulthood, every clan member possesses a comprehensive education covering survival skills, social navigation, environmental knowledge, and group maintenance that would challenge modern university graduates. The difference is that this education is entirely practical, immediately applicable, and literally life or death important. Gender roles in your prehistoric family are more fluid than many later human societies will develop. While certain activities may be more commonly associated with males or females based on physical differences or reproductive considerations, strict role enforcement doesn't exist. Survival trumps social conventions every time. If the best tracker happens to be female, she leads the hunt. If the most skilled plant gatherer is male, he guides foraging expeditions. This flexibility isn't progressive politics, it's practical adaptation. Groups that could utilize all their human resources effectively had survival advantages over those bound by rigid role restrictions. Your clan represents millions of years of evolutionary pressure selecting for social systems that maximize group capability rather than enforce arbitrary divisions. The elderly in your group hold positions of respect that modern societies might envy. Their accumulated knowledge makes them valuable beyond their physical contributions. They've survived diseases, predators, natural disasters, and resource shortages that killed others. This survival experience translates into wisdom that the group desperately needs. But their value goes beyond practical knowledge. They serve as living libraries, carrying the group's history, traditions, and hard-won lessons from previous generations. In a world without writing, their memories are the only way crucial information passes to the future. Lose the elderly too quickly, and the group loses its accumulated wisdom, making the same deadly mistakes previous generations learned to avoid. Child rearing in your clan is a community effort that would impress modern child development experts. Multiple adults take responsibility for every child's welfare, education, and protection. This isn't just kindness, it's practical insurance. If biological parents die or become incapacitated, other adults can step in without the child becoming a burden or being abandoned. Children learn from multiple role models, gaining diverse perspectives and skills that make them more adaptable adults. They develop relationships with various clan members that will support them throughout their lives. The modern concept of nuclear family isolation would seem dangerously irresponsible to your prehistoric ancestors. This communal child rearing also serves another crucial function. It creates emotional bonds that transcend immediate genetic relationships. Children who grow up with multiple parental figures develop loyalty to the group as a whole, rather than just their biological family unit. This broader loyalty helps maintain clan cohesion even when individual relationships become strained. As the day progresses, and you observe your clan's complex social dynamics, you begin to understand something remarkable. These early hominids aren't primitive versions of modern humans struggling with basic survival. They're sophisticated social beings who've developed organizational systems that will form the foundation for every human achievement that follows. The cooperation you witness isn't instinctual like ant colonies or beehives. It's learned, taught, and constantly negotiated. The relationships aren't fixed by biology alone, but are actively maintained through daily interactions, shared experiences, and mutual support. The knowledge being passed down isn't just genetic, but cultural, environmental, and social. Your prehistoric family operates as a complex adaptive system that would challenge modern organizational theorists. They balance individual needs with group requirements. They maintain stability while adapting to changing conditions. They preserve essential knowledge while innovating solutions to new problems. They've created a social technology that will eventually enable their descendants to build cities, develop agriculture, create art, explore space, and ponder their own origins. As evening approaches and the clan settles into familiar patterns of food sharing, social grooming, and collective vigilance, you realize you're witnessing something extraordinary. Not just the daily life of early hominids, but the very roots of human civilization being lived out in real time. The bonds that hold your clan together aren't just emotional connections. They're survival technologies as sophisticated as any tool your ancestors will ever create. These relationships have been tested by drought, predation, disease, and countless other challenges that would break apart less cohesive groups. Every interaction you observe has been refined through generations of life and death consequences. Take the way disputes over resources are handled. When two clan members both want the same choice piece of meat or access to the best sleeping spot, the resolution process reveals layers of social complexity that won't be matched by formal legal systems for millions of years. The outcome isn't determined by simple dominance or physical strength. Instead, multiple factors weigh into the decision. Who contributed most to acquiring the resource? Who has been most generous in past distributions? Who has family members that need additional support? The individual who yields isn't showing weakness. They're making a calculated social investment that will pay dividends later when they need support. The one who receives the resource isn't just taking. They're accepting an obligation to reciprocate when circumstances allow. These aren't formal contracts written on stone tablets. They're living agreements maintained through memory, reputation, and the understanding that everyone's survival depends on the system working fairly over time. Mating relationships in your prehistoric family operate with complexities that would challenge modern sociologists. Pair bonding exists, but it's embedded within the larger social structure in ways that prioritize group stability alongside individual attraction. A partnership isn't just between two individuals, it's between their extended networks, their accumulated resources, and their combined ability to contribute to clan welfare. The selection process involves considerations that go far beyond physical attraction or even emotional compatibility. Can this individual contribute valuable skills to the group? Do they have genetic advantages that would benefit offspring? Are their existing relationships likely to strengthen or strain clan dynamics? Will their personality mesh well with the group's social fabric during stressful times? These aren't cold calculations made in isolation. They're community considerations, where older, experienced members offer guidance based on their understanding of what makes relationships work within the constraints of clan life. Young adults don't just follow their hearts. They also consider the wisdom of those who've seen partnerships succeed and fail under the harsh realities of prehistoric existence. Territory defense reveals another dimension of your clan's sophisticated social organization. When neighboring groups approach your established resource areas, the response isn't automatically aggressive. Instead, a complex negotiation begins that considers current resource abundance, relative group strengths, existing relationships, and long-term strategic implications. If resources are plentiful, sharing might be the best strategy. It builds goodwill that could prove crucial during lean times when your clan might need to access other groups' territories. If resources are scarce, a show of strength might be necessary. But even then, the goal isn't to destroy the other group. It's to establish boundaries that both sides can live with, because today's competitors might be tomorrow's allies against larger threats. The decision-making process involves the entire clan, but isn't democratic in any modern sense. Experience matters more than numbers. The elderly female who remembers the last major drought has more influence than several younger adults. The successful hunter, whose judgment has kept everyone fed, carries more weight than those who haven't proven their practical wisdom. Authority flows from demonstrated competence rather than formal appointment. Seasonal migrations showcase your clan's remarkable ability to coordinate complex group movements across dangerous terrain. These aren't random wanderings in search of better conditions. They're carefully planned expeditions following routes established over generations, timed to coincide with resource availability. and weather patterns that won't be formally understood by meteorologists for millions of years. The planning begins weeks in advance as scouts report on conditions along traditional routes. Water sources are evaluated. Predator activity is assessed. The health and capability of each clan member is considered to determine optimal travel pace and rest requirements. Contingency plans are developed for various scenarios that might arise during the journey. During the actual migration, roles are clearly defined but flexibly implemented. Stronger individuals carry extra supplies and assist those who struggle. Experienced navigators guide the group while others maintain security or gather food along the way. Children aren't just passengers. They're active participants, learning the routes and landmarks they'll need to know as adults. The arrival at seasonal camps reveals another layer of social sophistication. These aren't random stopping points, but carefully selected locations that provide optimal combinations of resources, defense, and comfort. Some sites show evidence of use spanning thousands of years as generation after generation of your ancestors return to places that met their complex survival requirements. Knowledge preservation in your clan operates through storytelling traditions that won't be recognized as formal education for eons. The tales told around evening fires aren't just entertainment. They're comprehensive databases containing survival information, moral guidance, historical records, and cultural values, all wrapped in memorable narrative formats. The story of the Great Flood doesn't just describe a past weather event. It teaches which high ground provides safety, how to recognize warning signs of dangerous water levels, what supplies to gather in advance, and how to maintain group cohesion during extended periods of hardship. The narrative format makes this crucial information easier to remember and transmit accurately across generations. Similarly, stories about encounters with dangerous predators aren't just exciting adventures. They're detailed training manuals describing animal behavior patterns, effective defense strategies, escape routes, and the importance of group coordination when facing threats. The emotional impact of these stories helps ensure the lessons are remembered when quick decisions could mean the difference between life and death. Toolmaking in your prehistoric family isn't just individual skill development. It's community knowledge sharing that accelerates innovation and ensures crucial techniques don't disappear when individuals die or become incapacitated. The Master Napper doesn't guard trade secrets. Instead, they actively teach others because group capability is more important than individual advantage. The learning process involves careful observation, guided practice, and patient correction. Mistakes are treated as learning opportunities rather than failures because everyone understands that skill development takes time and practice. The community investment in each individual's education pays dividends. When that person's expertise benefits everyone during critical situations, innovation happens through collective experimentation rather than isolated genius. New techniques are tested by multiple individuals under various conditions. Successful innovations are rapidly adopted throughout the group and shared with neighboring clans during friendly encounters. Failed experiments are remembered to avoid repeating dangerous mistakes. Medical knowledge in your clan combines practical experience with careful observation that would impress modern researchers. Generations of trial and error have identified which plants provide pain relief, which substances fight infection, and which treatments help various injuries heal properly. This isn't primitive folk medicine. It's evidence-based healthcare developed through systematic observation and refined through continuous use. The healing process involves the entire community because patient care requires more resources than individuals can provide alone. Someone needs to gather medicinal plants, while others provide food and protection for those who can't contribute temporarily. Recovery isn't just physical. It's social reintegration that ensures previously valuable individuals remain connected to the group despite temporary limitations. Mental health receives attention that modern societies might envy. Individuals showing signs of depression, anxiety, or other psychological distress aren't ignored or abandoned. Instead, the community recognizes that emotional well-being affects everyone's survival and takes active steps to provide support, distraction, and purpose that help restore psychological balance. Your clan's approach to death reveals perhaps their most sophisticated social development. When members die, the response isn't just grief, but careful consideration of how to maintain group stability while honoring the deceased individual's contributions. Practical matters like resource redistribution and role replacement are handled alongside emotional support for those most affected by the loss. The dying process itself becomes a community event where knowledge transfer accelerates as the individual shares final wisdom with younger members. These aren't formal deathbed speeches, but ongoing conversations where accumulated experience gets compressed into essential lessons that survivors can apply immediately. Burial practices, while simple by later standards, already show evidence of symbolic thinking and emotional complexity that separates your ancestors from other species. The careful positioning of bodies, the inclusion of personal items, and the selection of burial locations all suggest beliefs about death that go beyond mere disposal of remains. As night settles over your prehistoric family, and the familiar sounds of settling and security checks create a backdrop for rest, you witness something remarkable. These aren't primitive creatures struggling with basic existence. They're sophisticated social beings who've developed organizational systems that will eventually enable their descendants to create everything from agriculture to spaceflight. The relationships you've observed aren't simple survival partnerships. They're complex emotional and practical bonds that provide security, education, purpose, and meaning in ways that many modern individuals might envy. The knowledge being shared isn't just technical information, but wisdom about living successfully in groups, managing relationships, and finding individual fulfillment within collective responsibility. Your prehistoric ancestors weren't waiting for civilization to begin. They were creating it, one relationship at a time, one shared decision at a time, one act of cooperation at a time. The foundations of every human achievement that followed were being laid in the daily interactions of clans like yours, in the patient teaching of children, in the careful maintenance of alliances, and in the constant balancing of individual needs with group welfare. The stars above shine down on a scene of remarkable human potential, being realized not through technology or formal institutions, but through the simple yet profound act of people choosing to care for each other, learn from each other, and face an uncertain world together rather than alone. The morning brings new challenges that test every aspect of your clan's social fabric. A young adult male has been injured during yesterday's foraging expedition. His ankle twisted badly when he stepped into a hidden burrow, and now he can't put weight on it. In modern times, this would be a minor inconvenience. A few days of rest, maybe some anti-inflammatory medication, and he'd be back to normal. But here, 5 million years ago, this injury becomes a test of everything your prehistoric family has built together. The response is immediate and tells you everything about how these early human societies actually functioned. This isn't charity or simple kindness. It's a complex social calculation that every member understands intuitively. The injured individual has proven himself valuable to the group. He's an excellent tracker, contributed significantly to recent successful hunts, and has always shared resources generously with others. His injury isn't seen as making him worthless. It's viewed as a temporary setback, affecting someone who will return that investment once he heals. But the decision isn't automatic. Resources are always limited, and supporting a non-contributing member means everyone else must work harder and share smaller portions. The clan's response reveals layers of social accounting that operate without written records or formal agreements. Who has received support in the past and how they responded? Who has contributed most consistently to group welfare? what the current resource situation allows in terms of extra burden. The discussion happens through glances, subtle gestures, and quiet consultations rather than formal debate. The eldest female, whose opinion carries enormous weight, positions herself near the injured male during the morning gathering. This signals her support for providing care. Other influential members follow her lead, but not blindly. They're making their own assessments based on their relationships with the injured individual and their understanding of group capabilities. What emerges is a care system that balances compassion with practicality in ways that ensure both individual welfare and group survival. The injured male will be supported, but he's also expected to contribute what he can from his limited position. He can work on tool maintenance, share knowledge with younger members, and help process food brought by others. He's not becoming a burden. He's shifting to different types of contribution while he recovers. This adaptation reveals something crucial about prehistoric family structures. Roles weren't rigid categories that trapped individuals permanently. They were flexible responsibilities that could be adjusted based on circumstances, capabilities, and group needs. The successful tracker temporarily becomes the mentor and toolmaker. Others expand their activities to cover his usual responsibilities. The group adapts without losing efficiency or abandoning valuable members. Child development in your clan shows remarkable sophistication that challenges assumptions about primitive parenting. The young ones aren't just left to figure things out on their own or kept safe through constant supervision. Instead, they're gradually introduced to adult responsibilities through carefully structured experiences that build competence while managing risk. A 6-year-old doesn't join dangerous hunting expeditions, but she does participate in tracking exercises where she learns to read animal signs, understand terrain, and coordinate with others. Her mistakes in these low-risk situations become learning opportunities rather than life-threatening errors. By the time she's old enough for actual hunts, she's already mastered the foundational skills that make success possible. The learning process involves constant feedback from multiple adults who've taken responsibility for her development. This isn't one-on-one tutoring, but community education, where different individuals share their specialized knowledge. The best tracker teaches observation skills. The most successful gatherer explains plant identification. The finest toolmaker demonstrates manufacturing techniques. Each child receives a comprehensive education that no single adult could provide alone. Competition between children is carefully managed to promote learning while maintaining group harmony. Young ones are encouraged to improve their skills and demonstrate competence, but not at the expense of cooperation or mutual support. The child who masters fire starting first is expected to help others learn the technique, rather than hoarding knowledge for personal advantage. This balance between individual achievement and collective welfare shapes personalities in ways that serve both personal fulfillment and group survival. Children learn that their individual success contributes to everyone's well-being, while understanding that their own welfare depends on maintaining strong relationships with others. Food distribution in your prehistoric family operates through rules so complex they rival modern economic systems in their sophistication. The successful return of hunting parties triggers negotiations that consider multiple factors simultaneously. Who participated in the hunt and what role they played. What each individual's current needs are based on health, age, and recent contributions. How resources should be allocated to maintain fairness while encouraging future cooperation. The primary hunters don't simply take the largest shares for themselves. Instead, they demonstrate leadership by ensuring distribution that strengthens group bonds and encourages continued participation. Choice portions go to individuals whose support will be needed for future hunts. Adequate shares reach those whose contributions may be less visible but equally important to group functioning. The pregnant female receives premium portions not just because of her condition, but because her successful reproduction serves everyone's genetic interests. The elderly male, with extensive tracking knowledge, gets quality meat because his continued health means continued access to his expertise. The young adult female who excels at plant gathering receives good shares because her skills complement hunting and provide dietary variety essential for group health. These aren't formal rules written down and enforced by authority figures. They're understood principles that emerge from generations of experience with what works and what doesn't. Groups that distributed resources fairly maintained cohesion and survived. Those that allowed inequality or exploitation to develop faced internal conflicts that weakened them against external threats. The system self-regulates through reputation and reciprocity. Individuals who consistently take more than they give find themselves gradually excluded from cooperative activities. Those who share generously and contribute reliably build social capital that provides security during times when they need extra support. Seasonal challenges test your clan's adaptive capabilities in ways that reveal the true strength of their social organization. As dry season approaches and reliable water sources begin to dwindle, the group faces decisions that will determine their survival over the coming months. They can attempt to remain in familiar territory and hope for early rains, or they can undertake the dangerous migration to distant water sources that other groups may already be claiming. The decision-making process involves extensive consultation that draws on every member's knowledge and experience. The eldest female remembers similar conditions from decades past and shares what strategies worked then. Younger adults who've scouted neighboring territories provide current intelligence about resource availability and competing group movements. Even children contribute observations about animal behavior that might indicate environmental changes. What emerges isn't democratic voting, but consensus building that ensures everyone understands and supports the chosen strategy. Dissent is encouraged during planning because overlooked problems discovered early are easier to address than crises that emerge during implementation. Once the decision is made, however, unity becomes essential because divided groups don't survive major challenges. The preparation phase showcases your clan's remarkable organizational abilities. Resources must be gathered and processed for transport. Route planning requires balancing speed against safety while considering the capabilities of the least mobile members. Contingency preparations account for various scenarios that might arise during the journey. Individual specializations emerge naturally as members take responsibility for aspects of preparation that match their skills and knowledge. The expert tracker scouts ahead to identify the safest and most efficient routes. The skilled gatherer stockpiles portable foods that will sustain energy during travel. The toolmaker ensures everyone has the implements needed for various situations they might encounter. Territory negotiations with neighboring clans reveal diplomatic sophistication that challenges assumptions about prehistoric conflict. When your group's planned migration route crosses areas used by other families, the interaction isn't automatically hostile. Instead, complex negotiations begin that consider mutual interests, existing relationships, and long-term strategic implications. The discussions involve more than just immediate access rights. They include information sharing about resource conditions, predator activity, and environmental changes that affect everyone. Mutual defense agreements might be established for the duration of seasonal vulnerabilities. Trading arrangements could develop where different groups' specialized knowledge or resources are exchanged for mutual benefit. These diplomatic relationships require maintenance through ongoing contact and reciprocal obligations that extend far beyond single interactions. A favor granted during this season creates expectations for future cooperation. Support provided to a struggling group establishes credit that might be crucial when circumstances reverse. The negotiation process itself demonstrates communication sophistication that operates without formal language. Gestures, positioning, gift-giving, and shared activities all carry meaning that participants understand intuitively. Agreements are sealed through ceremonial actions that create emotional bonds between groups, rather than legal documents that might be ignored when convenient. Conflict resolution within your clan reveals justice systems that prioritize restoration over punishment. When disputes arise between members, the goal isn't to determine guilt and assign penalties, but to repair relationships and restore group harmony. The process considers not just the immediate disagreement, but the underlying tensions that allowed it to develop. Multiple perspectives are heard not through formal testimony, but through community discussion that allows everyone to share their understanding of the situation. The focus remains on finding solutions that address legitimate grievances while maintaining the social bonds essential for group survival. Resolution might involve resource redistribution, role adjustments, or symbolic actions that acknowledge hurt feelings and demonstrate renewed commitment to cooperation. The individuals involved aren't just required to accept the solution, but to participate in creating it, so that their buy-in ensures lasting peace rather than temporary compliance. The process serves educational purposes that help prevent similar conflicts from arising. Younger members observe how disputes can be resolved without destroying relationships. They learn that disagreements don't have to become permanent divisions if handled with wisdom and good faith from all parties involved. Leadership in your prehistoric family emerges organically from demonstrated competence rather than formal appointment or inheritance. The individual who guides hunting expeditions earns that position through superior tracking skills, successful decision-making under pressure, and the ability to coordinate group efforts effectively. Their authority lasts only as long as their performance justifies the trust placed in them. Different situations call for different types of leadership, and your clan seamlessly shifts authority to whoever possesses the most relevant expertise. During medical emergencies, the member with the most healing knowledge takes charge. When environmental hazards threaten, the individual with the best understanding of weather patterns and terrain guides group responses. This fluid leadership system prevents the accumulation of unchecked power while ensuring that decisions are made by those most qualified to make them. It also distributes the psychological burden of responsibility across multiple individuals rather than placing impossible demands on single leaders. The development of future leaders happens through apprenticeship and gradual assumption of responsibility rather than sudden transitions. Promising younger members are included in decision-making processes where they can observe, learn, and gradually take on more complex responsibilities as their competence grows. Evening rituals in your clan serve functions that go far beyond simple relaxation after daily work. These are sophisticated social maintenance activities that strengthen bonds, resolve tensions, share knowledge, and prepare the group for tomorrow's challenges. The activities appear casual, but serve essential organizational purposes. Grooming sessions that look like simple hygiene maintenance are actually complex social negotiations. Who grooms whom, for how long, and with what level of attention all carry meaning about current relationship status and future obligations. Alliances are strengthened through these intimate interactions, while conflicts are diffused through gestures of care and attention. Storytelling serves as both entertainment and education, as older members share knowledge through narratives that make crucial information memorable. The tales aren't just historical accounts, but comprehensive survival manuals disguised as engaging stories. The excitement of the narrative helps ensure that vital lessons are retained and transmitted accurately to future generations. Food sharing during evening meals reinforces social bonds while providing opportunities for subtle status negotiations. Who serves whom, what portions are offered, and how generously resources are shared all communicate messages about current relationships and future expectations. The gradual settling into sleep positions reveals social hierarchies and alliances through proximity patterns that provide both emotional comfort and practical security. Family groups cluster together while maintaining connections to the broader community through careful positioning that maximizes protection while preserving important relationships. As your prehistoric family settles into the familiar rhythms of evening and prepares for another night of shared vulnerability and mutual protection, you witness the daily miracle of human cooperation that makes everything else possible. These aren't primitive creatures driven by instinct alone. They're sophisticated social beings who've created organizational systems that balance individual needs with collective welfare in ways that ensure both personal fulfillment and group survival. The relationships you observe aren't simple partnerships, but complex networks of mutual obligation, emotional support, and practical cooperation that provide security in an uncertain world. The knowledge being shared isn't just technical information, but wisdom about living successfully in groups, managing conflicts, and finding meaning through contribution to something larger than individual existence. Tomorrow will bring new challenges that test every aspect of what your clan has built together. But tonight, surrounded by the soft sounds of settling families and the quiet vigilance of those taking turns at security watch, you're witnessing the daily recreation of the social bonds that make human civilization possible. 5 million years ago, your ancestors weren't waiting for the future to begin. They were creating it through the simple yet profound choice to face an uncertain world together rather than alone. The complexity of your clan's social dynamics becomes even more apparent as you witness the intricate dance of alliance formation and maintenance that occurs throughout each day. These aren't random friendships based on casual compatibility. They're strategic relationships carefully cultivated to provide mutual benefit while strengthening the overall group structure. Every interaction carries weight that extends far beyond the immediate moment. Watch as the skilled toolmaker approaches the successful hunter with a newly crafted spear point. This isn't a simple transaction or generous gift. It's an investment in future cooperation that creates obligations and expectations on both sides. The hunter now owes the toolmaker consideration when distributing meat from future kills. The toolmaker has demonstrated value that enhances their position within the group hierarchy. But the exchange operates on multiple levels simultaneously. Other clan members observe the interaction and adjust their own relationship calculations accordingly. The alliance between hunter and toolmaker might influence how resources are distributed, who gets included in planning discussions, and which individuals receive support during conflicts or difficulties. These alliance networks shift and evolve constantly as circumstances change and individuals prove or disprove their reliability. A drought that reveals hidden food caches maintained by a previously overlooked gatherer suddenly elevates their social status. An injury that prevents a dominant hunter from contributing temporarily redistributes influence among other members. Your prehistoric family has created a social stock market where individual value fluctuates based on contribution, reliability, and strategic importance to group welfare. But unlike modern economic systems, these fluctuations are buffered by emotional bonds and long-term relationship investments that prevent dramatic social collapses when circumstances change. The sophistication becomes flows through your clan. Knowledge even more apparent when you observe how information isn't just shared randomly or hoarded for personal advantage. It's distributed strategically to maximize group benefit while maintaining individual influence and status. The master tracker doesn't reveal all their secrets at once, but shares insights gradually in ways that maintain their value while improving overall group capability. This information economy operates on principles of reciprocity and trust that require constant maintenance. Individuals who share valuable knowledge freely build reputations that bring them influence and support. Those who withhold crucial information or provide misleading guidance find themselves gradually excluded from the networks that provide security and opportunity. The educational system that emerges from these dynamics would impress modern pedagogical theorists. Learning happens through multiple channels simultaneously. Direct instruction occurs when experienced members explicitly teach skills to novices. Observational learning takes place as individuals watch others perform complex tasks and gradually understand the underlying principles. Peer education develops as members of similar skill levels share discoveries and techniques with each other. But perhaps most importantly, experiential learning occurs through carefully managed exposure to real challenges, where mistakes have consequences but aren't immediately fatal. The young adult learning to hunt participates in actual expeditions where their errors might cost the group a meal but won't result in starvation. The apprentice gatherer practices plant identification in situations where mistakes might cause temporary discomfort but not deadly poisoning. This graduated exposure to risk creates competence while building confidence and judgment that can't be developed through theoretical instruction alone. By the time individuals assume full adult responsibilities, they've already faced and overcome numerous smaller challenges that have prepared them for the life and death decisions they'll need to make independently. Gender dynamics in your prehistoric family reveal flexibility that many later human societies would lose as they became more complex and rigid. While might be more commonly performed by males or females based on physical certain activities, differences, or reproductive considerations, these are tendencies rather than absolute rules. Capability and inclination matter more than category membership. The female who excels at tracking might find herself leading hunting parties despite societal expectations that might develop in future civilizations. The male who shows exceptional skill at plant identification could become the group's primary gathering coordinator. Individual talent trumps social convention because survival depends on utilizing all available human resources effectively. This meritocratic flexibility extends to leadership roles as well. Authority flows to those who demonstrate competence in relevant age or family connections. The result based on gender, situations, rather than being a sign, is a social system that maximizes human potential while maintaining the stability needed for group survival. Reproductive strategies within your clan operate with complexity that balances individual choice with group welfare considerations. Pair bonding exists and can be deeply emotional, but it's embedded within larger social structures that ensure reproductive success serves collective as well as individual interests. Partnerships aren't just between two people, but between their extended support networks and accumulated resources. The selection process involves community input that goes beyond mere approval or disapproval. Experienced members share insights about compatibility, genetic advantages, and social implications that younger adults might not consider independently. This guidance isn't authoritarian control, but wisdom sharing that helps individuals make better decisions for themselves and their future offspring. Child-rearing responsibilities are distributed across multiple adults in ways that provide security for children, while preventing any individual from being overwhelmed by parental duties. Biological parents maintain primary relationships with their offspring, but other clan members take active roles in education, protection, and emotional support. This communal approach to child development creates stronger, more adaptable individuals who've learned from multiple role models and developed relationships throughout the group. It also provides insurance against the loss of biological parents, ensuring that orphan children continue to receive care and education, rather than becoming burdens or being abandoned. The result is a generation of young adults who've been thoroughly prepared for the challenges they'll face, while maintaining strong emotional connections to the group that raised them. Their loyalty extends beyond immediate family to encompass the entire clan, because their welfare has always depended on collective support rather than individual family units alone. Economic relationships in your prehistoric family operate on principles that wouldn't be formally described by economists for millions of years, but demonstrate remarkable sophistication in practice. Value is determined not just by immediate utility, but by strategic importance, scarcity, and contribution to group welfare. The individual who discovers a new water source during drought provides value that far exceeds the effort required for the discovery. Exchange systems operate through complex networks of obligation and reciprocity that extend across time rather than requiring immediate quid pro quo transactions. Support provided during someone's illness creates expectations for future assistance that might not be called upon for months or years. Gifts given during abundance establish credits that can be claimed during scarcity. These economic relationships are embedded within social bonds that make purely selfish calculation impossible. You can't exploit others for short-term gain without damaging the relationships you depend on for long-term survival. The system self-regulates through reputation effects that reward generous cooperation while punishing selfish exploitation. Resource management reveals planning capabilities that extend far beyond immediate needs. Your clan doesn't just gather enough food for today's consumption, but thinks strategically about seasonal availability, storage limitations, and contingency requirements. Surplus during abundant times is processed and preserved for lean periods that may be months away. This forward-thinking approach requires coordination among multiple specialists who understand different aspects of resource acquisition, processing, and storage. The knowledge of when and where to find specific resources must be combined with techniques for preservation and storage that maintain nutritional value and prevent spoilage. The planning process involves risk assessment that considers multiple scenarios and their probabilities. Strategies are developed for normal conditions, abundant times, and various levels of scarcity. Contingency plans exist for situations where primary resources become unavailable due to environmental changes, competition from other groups, or unforeseen circumstances. Territorial management by your prehistoric family demonstrates geopolitical sophistication that rivals modern nations in its complexity. Your clan's land use isn't based on formal ownership concepts, but on practical arrangements that provide security while maintaining flexibility. Boundaries are understood rather than marked, enforced through presence and use patterns rather than formal agreements. The territory your group controls or influences extends beyond immediate living areas to include resource sites, travel routes, and strategic positions that provide advantages during conflicts or negotiations. Water sources, tool-making materials, seasonal food gathering areas, and defensive positions all factor into territorial considerations. Relationships with neighboring groups operate on multiple levels simultaneously. Competition exists for limited resources, but cooperation develops around mutual defense, information sharing, and resource trading that benefits everyone involved. The same group that might be rivals during abundant times could become essential allies when facing external threats or environmental challenges. These territorial relationships require constant maintenance through diplomatic contact, gift exchange, intermarriage, and shared activities that build trust while managing competition. The balance between cooperation and competition shifts based on circumstances, but the relationships themselves provide stability that benefits all parties over time. Migration patterns reveal your clan's remarkable ability to coordinate complex movements across dangerous terrain while maintaining group cohesion and security. These aren't desperate wanderings in search of better conditions, but carefully planned expeditions that follow established routes and timing patterns developed over generations. The planning process begins months in advance as scouts gather intelligence about conditions along traditional migration routes. Water availability, predator activity, weather patterns, and the movements of other groups all factor into decisions about timing, routes, and resource allocation for the journey. During actual migrations, roles are clearly defined but flexibly implemented based on changing conditions and individual capabilities. Stronger members assist those who struggle while maintaining security and gathering resources along the way. The group adapts its pace and route based on real-time conditions while maintaining the coordination necessary for collective safety. Arrival at seasonal destinations triggers complex processes of territory establishment, resource assessment, and relationship renewal with other groups that may be sharing the same general area. These interactions require diplomatic skills that balance competition for limited resources with cooperation that benefits everyone involved. Medical knowledge within your clan combines empirical observation with systematic experimentation that produces remarkably effective treatments for common injuries and illnesses. Generations of careful observation have identified which plants provide pain relief, which treatments promote healing, and which interventions are dangerous or ineffective. The healing process involves not just physical treatment, but social support that addresses the psychological aspects of illness and injury. Patients receive attention and care that helps maintain their connection to the group while they recover. Their roles are adjusted rather than eliminated, allowing them to contribute what they can while receiving the support they need. Knowledge about medicinal treatments is shared freely within the group because everyone benefits from having multiple individuals who understand healing techniques. This redundancy ensures that crucial medical knowledge doesn't disappear if specialists die or become incapacitated during emergencies when their skills are most needed. The integration of physical and emotional healing creates recovery processes that address whole persons rather than just symptoms or injuries. The understanding that mental state affects physical healing leads to treatments that provide hope, purpose, and social connection alongside direct medical intervention. Conflict resolution mechanisms in your prehistoric family prioritize restoration over punishment while addressing underlying causes rather than just immediate symptoms. When disputes arise, the focus is on understanding why the conflict developed and how similar problems can be prevented in the future. The resolution process involves extensive consultation that allows all affected parties to share their perspectives and contribute to solutions. The goal isn't to determine who was right or wrong, but to find approaches that address legitimate concerns while restoring group harmony and preventing future conflicts. Solutions often involve changes in resource allocation, role assignments, or social arrangements that address the root causes of disputes rather than just their surface manifestations. Individuals aren't just required to accept imposed solutions, but participate in creating agreements they can genuinely support. The educational value of conflict resolution serves the entire group by demonstrating how disagreements can be addressed without destroying relationships or weakening group cohesion. Younger members learn that conflicts are normal parts of group life that can be managed constructively rather than threats that must be avoided or suppressed. Evening activities in your clan serve multiple functions that go far beyond simple relaxation after daily work. These are sophisticated social maintenance activities that strengthen relationships, resolve tensions, share knowledge, and prepare for tomorrow's challenges while providing emotional satisfaction and cultural continuity. Storytelling serves as entertainment, education, and cultural preservation simultaneously. The narratives aren't just engaging tales, but comprehensive information systems that encode survival knowledge, moral guidance, historical records, and social values in memorable formats that can be transmitted accurately across generations. Social grooming activities that appear to be simple hygiene maintenance actually serve complex relationship building and maintenance functions. The patterns of who grooms whom, for how long, and with what level of attention all communicate information about current alliances, status relationships, and future obligations within the group. Food sharing during evening meals reinforces social bonds while providing opportunities for subtle negotiations about resources, relationships, and group dynamics. The generosity displayed and received during these interactions affects individual reputations and influences future cooperation and support. The gradual transition to sleep involves positioning patterns that reflect social hierarchies, family relationships, and security considerations, while providing emotional comfort and practical protection. The arrangement of sleeping areas maximizes both individual comfort and collective security, while reinforcing social bonds through proximity and shared vulnerability. As another day ends for your prehistoric family and the familiar sounds of evening settlement create a backdrop for rest and contemplation, you witness the daily renewal of social bonds that make human civilization possible. These early hominids haven't just survived another day in a hostile environment. They've strengthened the relationships and maintained the knowledge systems that will enable their descendants to eventually transform the world. The cooperation you observe isn't instinctual behavior, but learned social technology that's been refined through countless generations of success and failure. The relationships aren't simple partnerships, but complex networks of mutual obligation and support that provide security in an uncertain world while enabling individual growth and achievement. The knowledge being preserved and transmitted isn't just practical information about survival techniques, but wisdom about living successfully in groups, managing complex relationships, and finding meaning through contribution to something larger than individual existence. Your clan represents more than just one small group of early humans struggling to survive in prehistoric Africa. They embody the fundamental social innovations that made everything else possible. The cities, the agriculture, the art, the science, the exploration of space, all of it grew from the foundation of cooperation, knowledge sharing, and mutual support that you're witnessing being created and maintained through daily acts of care, wisdom, and collective commitment. Tomorrow will bring new challenges that test every aspect of what your prehistoric family has built together. But tonight, surrounded by the quiet sounds of people who've chosen to face an uncertain world together rather than alone, you're witnessing the birth of human civilization itself, not through grand gestures or dramatic innovations, but through the simple yet profound daily choice to care for each other, learn from each other, and create something greater than the sum of individual parts. The stars above shine down on a scene that will be repeated with variations for millions of years, as your descendants spread across the globe, build societies, and continue the ancient human project of creating meaning and security through cooperation. But it all begins here, in the daily life of a small clan that understood something essential about what it means to be human. The first light of dawn reveals something extraordinary happening at the edges of your clan's territory. A scout returns with news that will test every social bond your prehistoric family has built over generations. Another group has been spotted moving toward your seasonal water source, but these aren't strangers. They're the remnants of a clan your people knew well, reduced now to perhaps 8 or 9 individuals after what appears to have been a devastating encounter with predators or disease. The discussion that follows reveals the moral complexity your ancestors navigated daily. These aren't abstract ethical decisions debated in comfortable settings. They're life and death choices that must be made quickly with incomplete information and consequences that could affect everyone's survival for months to come. The arriving group includes children and elderly members who clearly need help. But resources that might sustain your clan through the dry season could prove insufficient if shared with additional mouths to feed. Your clan's response emerges through subtle communications and careful consultation that demonstrate decision-making sophistication that wouldn't be matched by formal democratic processes for millions of years. The eldest female who remembers when members of that distant group provided crucial assistance during a previous crisis positions herself favorably toward helping. Her influence shapes the discussion, but others contribute perspectives based on their own experiences and current resource assessments. The young adult male who's been tracking game reports that animal populations seem lower than usual this season, suggesting that feeding additional people could create genuine hardship later. The primary gatherer notes that certain plant resources are showing signs of stress that might indicate reduced yields in coming months. These aren't selfish objections, but practical concerns that must be weighed against humanitarian impulses. What emerges is a solution that reveals your prehistoric family's remarkable ability to balance competing demands while maintaining their core values. The distressed group will be welcomed and provided immediate assistance, but the arrangement includes expectations for contribution and eventual independence that protect everyone's long-term welfare. The refugees aren't becoming permanent dependents, but temporary members who must prove their value to the expanded group. The integration process showcases social technologies that modern refugee assistance programs might study with benefit. The newcomers aren't just given food and shelter, but are immediately assigned roles that utilize their skills while addressing group needs. The elderly female among them possesses knowledge about medicinal plants that grow in distant territories. Her expertise becomes valuable to everyone, not charity extended to a helpless recipient. The children from the struggling group aren't treated as additional burdens, but as potential family members whose successful development serves everyone's genetic interests. They're quickly integrated into learning activities and social structures that begin building loyalty to their new community, while preserving memories and knowledge from their original clan. The young adults face the most complex integration challenges because they must prove their worth while adapting to established social hierarchies and relationship networks. They can't simply assume positions equivalent to those they held in their previous group, but must demonstrate competence and reliability in their new social environment. This integration process reveals how prehistoric societies managed population movements and cultural mixing that would eventually contribute to human genetic and social diversity. Groups that could successfully incorporate worthy individuals from other clans gained valuable resources while maintaining stability. Those that either rejected all outsiders or accepted everyone without discrimination faced different sets of survival challenges. Food procurement strategies become more complex with additional group members, requiring coordination and planning that pushes your clan's organizational abilities to their limits. Hunting parties must be restructured to include newcomers whose skills are unknown and whose integration into established teamwork patterns requires careful management. The successful coordination of larger groups demands communication and leadership abilities that some members may not have developed yet. The expanded gathering activities require territorial negotiations with neighboring groups who might view increased resource extraction as threatening to their own welfare. These discussions involve not just immediate access rights, but long-term relationships that affect seasonal migration patterns, emergency assistance agreements, and potential conflict resolution mechanisms. Resource allocation becomes a daily exercise in social mathematics that considers multiple variables simultaneously. Individual needs based on age, health, and activity level must be balanced against contribution levels, group loyalty, and strategic importance to collective welfare. The newcomers can't immediately claim equal shares, but must earn their position through demonstrated value and commitment. The complexity of these calculations increases exponentially with group size, requiring memory and analytical abilities that push cognitive limits. Every individual's current status must be tracked alongside their historical contributions and future potential. Relationships between members affect resource distribution patterns in ways that require constant recalculation as circumstances change. Water management becomes particularly critical as the dry season progresses and sources that adequately serve the original clan size prove strained by additional demand. Conservation strategies must be implemented without creating hardship that threatens group cohesion or individual health. Alternative sources must be identified and secured through negotiations or territorial expansion that might bring your group into conflict with others facing similar pressures. The search for additional water reveals your clan's sophisticated understanding of hydrology and environmental science. Generations of observation have produced knowledge about seasonal water patterns, underground sources, and environmental indicators that predict resource availability. This information becomes crucial for planning movements and resource allocation strategies that keep everyone alive through challenging periods. Territorial expansion discussions reveal geopolitical thinking that considers multiple factors simultaneously, military capabilities must be assessed honestly to determine whether your enlarged group can defend expanded territory against other clans who might challenge your claims. Diplomatic relationships must be evaluated to understand which neighbors might support or oppose territorial changes. The decision-making process involves extensive consultation that draws on every member's knowledge and experience while recognizing that some individuals possess expertise more relevant to current challenges. The former refugees contribute crucial intelligence about distant territories and the movements of other groups that might affect your clan's strategic planning. Social hierarchies undergo subtle but significant adjustments as group dynamics change with new members and altered resource situations. Individuals who possess certain status levels in the smaller group might find their influence diluted or enhanced, depending on how their skills and relationships translate to the larger community. These shifts require careful management to prevent conflicts that could destabilize the entire social structure. Leadership roles become more complex as coordination requirements increase, and decision-making processes must accommodate additional perspectives and interests. The informal authority structures that worked effectively in smaller groups might prove inadequate for managing larger, more diverse communities with varied backgrounds and loyalties. Communication systems must evolve to handle increased information flow and coordination requirements. The subtle gestural languages and positional communications that served smaller groups adequately might need supplementation with more explicit signaling methods that ensure understanding across cultural differences represented by the integrated newcomers. Evening activities take on additional significance as social bonding mechanisms that help integrate new members while maintaining group cohesion. Storytelling becomes particularly important as newcomers share narratives from their original clan, while learning the tales that define their new community's identity and values. The expanded storytelling repertoire enriches everyone's knowledge base while creating shared cultural experiences that build unity across different backgrounds. Stories about successful resource management during previous crises provide guidance for current challenges, while narratives about successful group integrations offer models for ongoing social processes. Grooming and social maintenance activities must accommodate new relationship patterns while preserving established bonds that provide stability during transitions. The newcomers must gradually build trust and intimacy with existing members, while established relationships adapt to changed group dynamics and resource situations. Food sharing rituals become more complex with additional participants whose status and relationships must be negotiated through daily interactions. The expanded sharing networks create opportunities for building new alliances while testing the generosity and flexibility of established community members. Sleeping arrangements require reconfiguration that considers security needs, relationship patterns, and social hierarchies, while ensuring everyone receives adequate rest and protection. The positioning patterns that emerge reflect the ongoing integration process and provide insights into how successfully newcomers are being accepted into the community. Conflict resolution becomes more challenging with additional personalities and perspectives that must be accommodated within group decision-making processes. Disagreements that might have been easily resolved in smaller groups could escalate more quickly with multiple viewpoints and competing interests represented in discussions. The expanded group's response to conflicts tests every aspect of their social technologies, while providing opportunities to refine and improve their approaches to maintaining harmony. Successful resolution of integration-related disputes strengthens community bonds, while failed attempts could fracture the group along original clan lines. Medical knowledge sharing reveals another dimension of successful group integration as different healing traditions and plant knowledge combine to create enhanced treatment capabilities. The medical expertise contributed by newcomers complements existing knowledge while challenging some established practices through different approaches and experiences. The collaborative development of expanded healing capabilities demonstrates how cultural mixing contributes to human advancement, while requiring careful evaluation of new information and techniques. Not every innovation proves beneficial, but the process of testing and adapting different approaches leads to improved outcomes over time. Child development programs must accommodate youngsters from different backgrounds while maintaining the educational standards and social preparation that ensure successful transition to adult responsibilities. The children's adaptation to new social environments provides insights into human psychological flexibility while testing the community's ability to integrate diverse perspectives. The expanded learning opportunities created by larger groups with diverse knowledge bases benefit all children while requiring coordination and planning that pushes educational systems to higher levels of sophistication. Multiple teaching traditions must be harmonized while preserving valuable knowledge and techniques from different cultural backgrounds. As weeks pass and integration processes continue, your enlarged prehistoric family faces the ultimate test of their social technologies. Can they maintain the cooperation, knowledge sharing, and mutual support that enabled survival while adapting to increased complexity and diversity? The answer will determine not just their immediate welfare, but their contribution to the evolutionary processes that eventually produce modern human societies. The challenges they navigate successfully become templates for future social development, while their failures provide cautionary examples that influence how subsequent generations approach similar situations. Every decision about resource allocation, conflict resolution, and social organization contributes to the accumulated wisdom that guides human social evolution. The morning brings news that will test your expanded clan's newly forged unity in ways that reveal both the strengths and vulnerabilities of their social integration. Scouts report the approach of yet another group, but these aren't refugees seeking assistance. They're a strong, well-organized clan of roughly 20 individuals who've been displaced from their traditional territory by severe drought conditions affecting regions to the south. The arriving group isn't requesting charity, but proposing a temporary alliance that could benefit both communities while creating complications that challenge every aspect of your family's social organization. They possess skills and knowledge that could prove invaluable, including expertise in deep well construction and advanced hunting techniques for the large game animals that have become increasingly important as smaller prey grows scarce. But they also represent potential competition for resources and influence that could destabilize the carefully balanced relationships your clan has been building with their recently integrated members. The newcomers from weeks ago have begun finding their place in the group's social hierarchy, but another wave of integration could disrupt those fragile bonds while straining resources that are already stretched by dry season conditions. The diplomatic negotiations that follow reveal your ancestors' sophisticated understanding of coalition politics and strategic alliance formation. These aren't simple yes or no decisions about whether to welcome strangers, but complex evaluations of how different partnership arrangements might affect group survival and social stability under various scenarios. The discussions involve not just immediate resource calculations, but long-term strategic thinking about how enlarged groups might compete more effectively for territory, defend against threats, and access resources that individual clans couldn't secure independently. The potential benefits of cooperation must be weighed against risks of internal conflict and resource depletion that could leave everyone worse off than they started. Your clan's response demonstrates remarkable analytical capabilities as they evaluate the approaching group's strengths, assess their own capacity for further integration, and consider alternative arrangements that might provide benefits while managing risks. The decision-making process draws on accumulated wisdom from previous alliance experiences while adapting to current circumstances that may not match historical precedents exactly. The proposal that emerges reveals your prehistoric family's innovative approach to complex social challenges. Rather than simply accepting or rejecting the alliance request, they suggest a trial cooperation period that allows both groups to evaluate compatibility while limiting commitments and potential conflicts. The arrangement includes specific terms for resource sharing, territorial access, and conflict resolution that protect everyone's interests while enabling beneficial cooperation. This trial alliance structure demonstrates legal thinking that wouldn't be formally codified by human societies for thousands of years, but shows remarkable sophistication in balancing competing interests and managing uncertainty. The temporary nature of commitments allows both groups to exit gracefully if the arrangement doesn't work, while providing sufficient incentives for genuine cooperation during the trial period. The implementation of this complex alliance tests every aspect of your clan's organizational abilities, while providing opportunities to refine and improve their social technologies. Coordination requirements increase dramatically as hunting parties, gathering expeditions, and security arrangements must accommodate multiple leadership structures and communication systems. Resource allocation becomes a three-dimensional puzzle that must consider the needs and contributions of original clan members, recently integrated refugees, and temporary alliance partners whose status and obligations differ from both other categories. The mathematical complexity of these calculations pushes cognitive abilities to their limits while requiring memory and analytical skills that demonstrate remarkable mental sophistication. Territorial arrangements must accommodate the space and resource needs of an enlarged population while maintaining access to crucial resources and defensive positions. The negotiations required to establish these arrangements involve multiple parties with different priorities and constraints, demanding diplomatic skills that balance competing demands while preserving essential relationships. The expanded group's hunting capabilities reveal both the advantages and challenges of larger social organizations. More participants enable pursuit of larger game animals that individual clans couldn't tackle safely, but coordination requirements increase exponentially as communication and planning must accommodate multiple leadership structures and hunting traditions. The integration of different hunting techniques and strategies creates opportunities for innovation and improvement, while requiring careful evaluation of new approaches that might conflict with established methods. Not every technique proves beneficial when adapted to different environmental conditions or group capabilities, but the experimental process contributes to accumulated knowledge that improves overall effectiveness. Gathering activities similarly benefit from expanded knowledge bases and larger workforces, while requiring coordination that prevents overexploitation of resources or conflicts between groups with different harvesting traditions. The sharing of plant knowledge and processing techniques enhances everyone's capabilities while demanding careful evaluation of new information and methods. Food processing and preservation become more complex with larger quantities and diverse techniques that must be harmonized into efficient systems. The combination of different preservation methods and storage technologies creates opportunities for improved resource management while requiring coordination and planning that pushes organizational abilities to higher levels. Social dynamics within the enlarged community reveal fascinating patterns of alliance formation, status negotiation, and cultural adaptation that demonstrate human behavioral flexibility while testing the limits of social technologies developed for smaller groups. Individual relationships must adapt to changed circumstances, while new connections form across original clan boundaries. The children's responses to enlarged social environments provide insights into human psychological development and cultural learning capabilities. Young people adapt more quickly to changed circumstances, while serving as bridges between different adult groups, whose relationships may be more constrained by established patterns and prior commitments. Educational opportunities expand dramatically as children gain access to multiple teaching traditions and knowledge bases while requiring coordination that ensures comprehensive learning without conflicting messages or divided loyalties. The challenge of harmonizing different educational approaches while preserving valuable knowledge from all traditions tests pedagogical innovations that won't be formally developed for millennia. Conflict resolution mechanisms must evolve to handle disputes that cross original clan boundaries, while maintaining the authority structures and cultural norms that provide stability within each component group. The complexity of these challenges requires sophisticated understanding of human psychology and social dynamics that demonstrates remarkable analytical capabilities. The expanded group's response to external challenges reveals both the advantages and vulnerabilities of larger social organizations. Increased numbers provide enhanced defensive capabilities and resource acquisition potential, while creating coordination challenges that could prove fatal if not managed effectively during crises. Weather management strategies must accommodate the needs and capabilities of multiple groups while utilizing expanded knowledge bases and resource access that larger territories provide. The planning required for these complex operations demonstrates logistical thinking that rivals modern organizational capabilities while operating without formal communication or recording systems. Medical knowledge sharing accelerates with multiple healing traditions, contributing techniques and plant knowledge that enhance everyone's healthcare capabilities. The integration of different medical approaches requires careful evaluation and testing while providing opportunities for innovation that improves treatment outcomes across all participating groups. The collaborative development of enhanced healing capabilities demonstrates how cultural mixing contributes to human advancement, while requiring sophisticated evaluation of new information and techniques. The process of testing and adapting different approaches while maintaining safety standards shows remarkable scientific thinking for prehistoric populations. Evening activities become elaborate social events that serve multiple integration and maintenance functions, while providing entertainment and cultural enrichment for enlarged communities. The complexity of managing these activities while accommodating different traditions and preferences requires organizational skills that demonstrate remarkable social sophistication. Storytelling traditions merge and evolve as different narrative collections combine to create expanded cultural repertoires that serve educational and entertainment functions, while building shared identity across original clan boundaries. The process of harmonizing different story traditions while preserving valuable knowledge and cultural elements requires sophisticated understanding of communication and cultural preservation. The enlarged group sleeping arrangements must accommodate complex security, relationship, and status considerations, while ensuring adequate rest and protection for everyone involved. The patterns that emerge reflect ongoing social integration processes, while providing insights into how successfully different groups are adapting to enlarged community life. As your prehistoric family adapts to the challenges and opportunities of their expanded social organization, they face questions that will echo through human history. How large can cooperative groups become before coordination costs outweigh benefits? How can different cultural traditions be preserved while building unified communities? What social technologies are required to manage complex multi-group alliances while maintaining the relationships and values that enable successful cooperation? The answers they develop through trial and error, success and failure will contribute to the accumulated wisdom that guides human social evolution, while testing the limits of organizational capabilities that took millions of years to develop. Their daily choices about cooperation, resource sharing, and conflict resolution help determine not just their immediate survival, but their contribution to the social innovations that eventually enable their descendants to build civilizations. The experiences of your enlarged clan provide insights into fundamental questions about human nature, social organization, and cultural evolution that remain relevant millions of years later. Their struggles to balance individual needs with collective welfare, preserve valuable traditions while adapting to changing circumstances, and maintain cooperation while managing competition offer lessons that transcend their prehistoric setting. Their success or failure in managing these complex challenges will determine whether their social innovations contribute to human advancement or serve as cautionary examples that guide future development. Either way, their daily choices about how to live together, share resources, and face an uncertain future help shape the trajectory of human social evolution in ways that continue to influence us today. The complexity of managing your enlarged prehistoric community reaches new heights as the trial alliance period progresses and unexpected challenges emerge from the south. Word arrives through a network of distant contacts that several clans have been completely displaced by what appears to be a massive environmental shift. Rivers have changed course, traditional food sources have disappeared, and entire regions that supported human populations for generations have become uninhabitable. This information transforms your temporary alliance from a convenient arrangement into a potential lifeline for survival. The knowledge and skills your allied group possesses about deep water extraction and large game hunting may prove essential, not just for prosperity, but for basic survival in a changing world. The refugee crisis approaching from the south could overwhelm any single clan's ability to cope, but coordinated groups might have the resources and flexibility to adapt. Your clan's response to this intelligence reveals strategic thinking that operates on multiple time horizons simultaneously. Immediate preparations must be made for potential resource shortages and population pressures, while long-term planning considers how to position the alliance for success in a fundamentally altered landscape. The decisions made over the coming weeks could determine survival for generations. The planning sessions that follow showcase your ancestors' remarkable ability to process complex information and develop comprehensive strategies under uncertainty. Multiple scenarios are considered based on different assumptions about environmental changes, population movements, and resource availability. Contingency plans are developed for various levels of crisis, while maintaining flexibility to adapt as new information becomes available. Resource stockpiling intensifies as the Alliance recognizes that normal seasonal preparations may prove inadequate for the challenges ahead. Traditional preservation methods are pushed to their limits, while innovative techniques are developed through experimentation and knowledge sharing between groups with different cultural backgrounds and survival experiences. The expanded community's approach to resource management reveals sophisticated understanding of logistics and supply chain thinking that wouldn't be formally developed by human societies for millennia. Raw materials must be gathered, processed, and stored in quantities that exceed anything previously attempted, while maintaining quality standards that ensure long-term viability. Storage technology advances rapidly as necessity drives innovation and cultural exchange accelerates learning. Different preservation techniques are tested and refined, while storage systems are expanded and improved to handle larger quantities and longer preservation periods. The collaborative development of these technologies demonstrates how crisis situations can accelerate human advancement. Territorial planning becomes crucial as your alliance recognizes that current resource areas may prove inadequate for supporting larger populations during extended difficult periods. Expansion possibilities are evaluated while considering the reactions of neighboring groups who may be facing similar pressures and making their own territorial calculations. The diplomatic challenges of territorial expansion require sophisticated negotiation skills that balance competition with cooperation while maintaining relationships that could prove crucial during future crises. Your alliance must present strength to secure necessary resources while avoiding conflicts that could weaken everyone involved, just when unity becomes most important. Security arrangements evolve rapidly as the implications of regional instability become clear. Defense strategies must accommodate larger populations and expanded territories while preparing for potential conflicts with displaced groups who may be driven to desperate actions by their circumstances. The balance between defensive preparation and resource allocation for other needs requires constant recalculation. Training programs accelerate as the Alliance recognizes that survival may depend on every member possessing enhanced skills in multiple areas. Hunting techniques, plant knowledge, tool-making, and combat abilities all receive intensified attention, while educational systems adapt to provide comprehensive preparation for uncertain futures. The expanded training efforts reveal your prehistoric family's sophisticated understanding of human learning and skill development. Different teaching methods are employed for various types of knowledge, while individual learning styles and capabilities are accommodated within group educational programs that maximize overall competence levels. Communication systems undergo rapid development as coordination requirements increase and information becomes more crucial for survival. The gestural languages and positional communications that served smaller groups must evolve to handle complex discussions and detailed planning sessions that involve multiple parties with different backgrounds and perspectives. The development of enhanced communication capabilities demonstrates how survival pressures drive linguistic and cognitive evolution while revealing the remarkable adaptability of human social technologies. New symbols, gestures, and communication protocols emerge through practical necessity while being refined through constant use and modification. Medical preparations intensify as the Alliance recognizes that healthcare challenges may increase dramatically with larger populations, potential conflicts, and environmental stresses that could affect everyone's health and survival capabilities. Healing knowledge is shared and expanded while medical supplies are gathered and processed in larger quantities. The collaborative development of enhanced medical capabilities reveals how crisis situations accelerate knowledge sharing and innovation while testing the limits of existing healthcare technologies. Different healing traditions are evaluated and integrated, while new treatments are developed through experimentation and careful observation of results. Child protection strategies become paramount as the Alliance recognizes that successful reproduction and child development will determine long-term survival, regardless of how well adults manage immediate challenges. Educational programs are intensified while protection systems are enhanced to ensure the next generation receives comprehensive preparation for the world they'll inherit. The expanded focus on child development reveals your prehistoric family's sophisticated understanding of intergenerational planning and cultural transmission. Investment in children's education and protection represents long-term strategic thinking that balances immediate resource needs with future survival requirements. Food production systems undergo revolutionary changes as traditional gathering and hunting methods prove inadequate for supporting larger populations during potentially extended, difficult periods. Experimental approaches to resource cultivation and animal management begin emerging through necessity and innovation driven by survival pressures. These early experiments in resource production represent tentative steps toward agricultural thinking that won't be fully developed for thousands of years, but demonstrate how environmental pressures drive human innovation and adaptation. The Alliance's willingness to experiment with new approaches while maintaining traditional methods shows remarkable strategic flexibility. Social organization continues evolving as the Alliance adapts to increased complexity and changing circumstances while maintaining the cooperation and mutual support that enable survival. Leadership structures become more sophisticated, while decision-making processes accommodate multiple perspectives and interests within unified strategic frameworks. The evolution of governance systems reveals how human social technologies adapt to changing circumstances while preserving essential functions and relationships. Democratic elements emerge alongside merit-based authority, while traditional hierarchies adapt to accommodate enlarged and diversified communities. Cultural integration accelerates as shared challenges create common experiences that transcend original clan boundaries, while building unified identity and purpose. Traditions merge and evolve, while new customs emerge through collective experiences and collaborative problem-solving efforts. The development of shared culture demonstrates how crisis situations can accelerate social evolution while revealing the human capacity for creating meaning and identity through collective action and mutual support. The Alliance's success in building unified culture while preserving valuable diversity shows remarkable social sophistication. Evening activities become increasingly important as social bonding mechanisms that maintain unity and morale during stressful periods while providing opportunities for planning, education, and cultural development. The complexity of managing these activities while serving multiple functions requires organizational skills that demonstrate remarkable social coordination capabilities. Storytelling traditions evolve rapidly as new experiences and challenges generate narratives that serve educational and motivational functions while building shared understanding of current circumstances and future possibilities. The collaborative development of new story traditions shows how human culture adapts to changing circumstances while preserving essential knowledge and values. As your enlarged prehistoric family faces the approaching crisis with determination, innovation, and remarkable social cohesion, they embody the fundamental human capacity for cooperation and adaptation that will eventually enable their descendants to overcome every challenge the world presents. Their daily choices about resource sharing, strategic planning, and mutual support help determine not just their immediate survival, but their contribution to the social technologies that make human civilization possible. The challenges they navigate successfully become templates for future social development, while their innovations contribute to accumulated wisdom that guides human evolution through millions of years of environmental changes, population pressures, and technological advancement. Their prehistoric alliance represents more than survival strategy. It demonstrates the fundamental human recognition that together, people can accomplish what no individual could achieve alone. Tomorrow will bring new tests of everything they've built together, but tonight they rest knowing they've created something remarkable. A community that balances individual fulfillment with collective welfare, preserves valuable traditions while embracing necessary innovation, and faces an uncertain future with courage born from mutual support and shared purpose. 5 million years ago, your ancestors weren't just surviving. They were pioneering the social technologies that make everything else possible. One relationship, one decision, one act of cooperation at a time. The stars fade as another dawn approaches your prehistoric world, bringing with it developments that will test every innovation your expanded alliance has created. The environmental refugees your scouts predicted begin arriving in small groups, their hollow eyes and depleted supplies, telling stories of devastation that stretch far beyond anything your people have experienced. These aren't organized clans seeking temporary alliance. They're scattered survivors carrying fragments of knowledge and desperate hope. Your alliance faces a humanitarian crisis that challenges every principle of resource management and social organization they've developed. Each arriving group represents both opportunity and burden. A family of 4 includes an elderly male whose knowledge of distant territories could prove invaluable for future planning. But they also need immediate food, water, and protection that stretches already strained resources. A pair of young adults bring skills in specialized tool crafting techniques unknown to your people, but they're traumatized by losses that make them difficult to integrate socially. The response reveals your prehistoric family's remarkable moral sophistication as they navigate competing demands for justice, survival, and collective welfare. Simple rejection would preserve resources, but violate values of mutual aid that bind the community together. Unlimited acceptance could destroy everyone through resource depletion and social chaos. The solution requires wisdom that balances competing needs while maintaining principles that define group identity. What emerges is a triage system that evaluates each arriving group based on multiple criteria simultaneously. Immediate needs are assessed alongside potential contributions and likelihood of successful integration. Those requiring urgent medical attention receive priority care, while their long-term status depends on recovery outcomes and demonstrated value to the enlarged community. The screening process reveals your ancestors' sophisticated understanding of human psychology and social dynamics. They recognize that traumatized individuals may require extended support before becoming productive community members, but they also understand that some refugees may never adapt successfully to their social structures and expectations. Integration protocols develop rapidly as experience teaches lessons about managing cultural differences and psychological trauma within established communities. Different approaches prove effective for various types of refugees, while some strategies fail completely, requiring constant adaptation and refinement of assistance methods. The children among refugee populations receive special attention as future community members whose successful integration serves everyone's long-term interests. Educational programs expand to accommodate youngsters with different backgrounds and potential trauma while maintaining standards that prepare all children for adult responsibilities in their adopted community. Adult refugees face more complex integration challenges as they must prove worthwhile adapting to established hierarchies and relationship networks that may differ significantly from their original social environments. Success depends on individual adaptability, community acceptance, and the availability of roles that utilize their skills while serving group needs. Resource allocation mathematics become extraordinarily complex as your alliance attempts to support refugee populations while maintaining adequate supplies for established members and preparing for continued environmental challenges. Every decision affects multiple constituencies with different needs and contributions. The strain reveals both strengths and weaknesses in social systems that seemed adequate for previous challenges, but struggle under unprecedented pressures. Some community bonds strengthen through shared sacrifice and collective effort, while others weaken under stress that exceeds their capacity for mutual support. Leadership structures adapt, as increased complexity requires more sophisticated coordination and decision-making processes. Authority becomes more distributed, while remaining coherent enough to provide direction during crisis situations that demand rapid response and unified action. Communication systems evolve further, as refugee integration requires explanation of complex social norms and expectations while accommodating language differences and cultural variations that previous expansion hadn't encountered. The development of more explicit communication methods accelerates through practical necessity. Medical challenges multiply as refugee populations bring unfamiliar diseases and health problems while stretching healthcare resources and challenging treatment knowledge. The collaborative development of expanded healing capabilities accelerates while testing the limits of existing medical technologies and knowledge systems. The integration of different healing traditions reveals both opportunities for advancement and risks from untested treatments that could prove harmful. Careful evaluation processes develop to assess new medical information while maintaining safety standards that protect everyone involved. Food procurement strategies undergo revolutionary changes as traditional methods prove completely inadequate for supporting dramatically enlarged populations during extended, difficult periods. Experimental approaches to resource cultivation and management accelerate through desperate necessity while maintaining enough traditional practices to ensure survival if innovations fail. These experiments represent humanity's first tentative steps toward agricultural thinking, driven by survival pressures that force innovation beyond anything previously attempted. The willingness to experiment while maintaining proven methods demonstrates strategic thinking that balances innovation with security. Territory management becomes critical as enlarged populations require access to resources that extend far beyond traditional boundaries, while potentially conflicting with other groups facing similar pressures. Diplomatic negotiations intensify while military preparations continue as backup options for securing necessary resources. The balance between cooperation and competition shifts constantly as circumstances change, and new information becomes available about environmental conditions and population movements throughout the region. Strategic flexibility becomes essential for survival while maintaining relationships that provide mutual support. Social organization continues evolving as refugee integration changes community composition and dynamics, while crisis management demands enhanced coordination and mutual support. Democratic elements strengthen alongside merit-based authority, while traditional structures adapt to accommodate increased diversity and complexity. The governance innovations emerging from crisis management represent significant advances in human social technology, while remaining flexible enough to adapt as circumstances continue changing. The balance between individual needs and collective welfare requires constant negotiation and adjustment. Cultural development integration create new experiences that generate innovative accelerates as shared challenges and refugee traditions and customs, while testing the preservation of valuable elements from various backgrounds. The synthesis of different cultural elements produces enriched community identity while maintaining coherence. Evening activities become crucial for maintaining morale and unity, while serving multiple functions, including refugee integration, cultural development, and strategic planning. The complexity of managing these gatherings while accommodating diverse needs and backgrounds requires remarkable organizational sophistication. Storytelling traditions expand rapidly as new experiences generate narratives that serve educational functions while helping process trauma and build shared understanding of current challenges and future possibilities. The collaborative development of expanded story collections demonstrates human capacity for creating meaning through collective narrative. Child development programs adapt to accommodate youngsters from various backgrounds while maintaining educational standards and preparing all children for uncertain futures. The investment in comprehensive education represents long-term strategic thinking that prioritizes future success over immediate convenience. Training intensifies as survival requirements expand beyond traditional skills, while refugee integration provides opportunities to learn new techniques and approaches. The collaborative development of enhanced capabilities through knowledge sharing demonstrates how crisis situations accelerate human advancement. Medical knowledge expands through integration of different healing traditions, while refugee populations provide opportunities to observe new conditions and test treatment approaches. The careful evaluation of expanded medical information while maintaining safety standards shows remarkable scientific thinking. Resource management innovations emerge through necessity as traditional methods prove inadequate, while refugee knowledge contributes new approaches to gathering, processing, and preservation techniques. The synthesis of different resource management traditions produces enhanced capabilities. As your Prehistoric Alliance adapts to managing refugee crisis while maintaining community cohesion and preparing for continued challenges, they demonstrate fundamental human capacities for compassion, innovation, and collective problem solving that transcend their ancient setting while providing foundations for all future social development. The success of their refugee integration efforts contributes to genetic and cultural diversity that strengthens long-term survival, while their innovations in crisis management provide templates for handling similar challenges throughout human history. Their daily choices about resource sharing, community building, and mutual support help shape social evolution in ways that continue influencing human societies millions of years later. The approaching dawn brings both uncertainty and hope, as your expanded prehistoric family prepares to face whatever challenges emerge from their changing world. They've created something remarkable through cooperation, innovation, and unwavering commitment to collective welfare. A community that preserves individual dignity while achieving collective strength, maintains cultural richness while building unified identity, and faces an uncertain future with courage born from mutual support and shared purpose. Their prehistoric experiment in large-scale cooperation represents more than survival strategy. It demonstrates the fundamental human recognition that together, people can overcome challenges that would defeat any individual while creating meaning and purpose that transcends immediate circumstances. 5 million years ago, your ancestors weren't just managing crisis. They were pioneering the social technologies that make civilization possible, proving that human cooperation, properly organized and maintained, can adapt to any challenge the world presents. As you witness your prehistoric family's remarkable journey through crisis and cooperation, you begin to understand something profound about what it means to be human. These early ancestors 5 million years ago weren't primitive beings stumbling through existence. They were sophisticated social engineers who created the very foundations upon which every human achievement would eventually be built. The bonds you've observed weren't just emotional connections or survival partnerships. They were living technologies as complex and vital as any tool ever crafted. The resource-sharing systems that balanced individual needs with collective welfare. The conflict resolution mechanisms that prioritized relationship repair over punishment. The educational networks that transformed children into capable adults through community investment. The leadership structures that flowed from competence rather than force. Every interaction you witnessed was refined through countless generations of life and death consequences. Your clan's response to environmental crisis and refugee integration reveals something extraordinary about human adaptability. When faced with challenges that could have destroyed them, they didn't retreat or abandon their values. Instead, they innovated. They expanded their capacity for cooperation. They developed new social technologies while preserving the wisdom that had kept them alive. They proved that human societies aren't rigid structures, but living systems capable of growth, adaptation, and remarkable resilience. The mathematical complexity of their resource allocation decisions, the diplomatic sophistication of their territorial negotiations, the psychological insight underlying their conflict resolution processes, the strategic thinking behind their alliance formations. All of this emerged not from formal education or written laws, but from the accumulated wisdom of people who understood that individual survival depended entirely on collective success. Perhaps most remarkably, they created meaning and purpose in a world that offered no guarantees. Through storytelling that preserved essential knowledge, through ceremonies that strengthened social bonds, through the patient teaching of children who represented hope for the future, through the care provided to elderly members who carried irreplaceable wisdom. They built something greater than mere survival. They built the foundations of human civilization itself. Every relationship in your prehistoric family served multiple functions simultaneously: protection and education, resource sharing and emotional support, individual fulfillment and collective welfare. They created a social web so sophisticated that its principles continue to guide human societies millions of years later, even as we've forgotten many of the specific innovations that made it possible. So tonight, as you return to your modern world of digital connections and global communities, remember what you've witnessed. The fundamental human capacity for cooperation, innovation, and mutual support that enabled a small clan in prehistoric Africa to not just survive, but to lay the groundwork for everything that followed. Cities, agriculture, art, science, space exploration. All of it grew from the simple yet profound recognition that together, people can accomplish what no individual could achieve alone. Your prehistoric ancestors weren't waiting for civilization to begin. They were creating it, one relationship at a time, one shared decision at a time, one act of cooperation at a time. And in their daily choice to face an uncertain world together rather than alone, they gave us the greatest gift imaginable. The knowledge that no challenge is insurmountable when human beings choose to support each other, learn from each other, and build something greater than themselves. The stars that shine above us tonight are the same stars that watched over your prehistoric family as they pioneered the social technologies that make our modern world possible. Their legacy lives in every act of cooperation, every gesture of mutual support, and every decision to choose community over isolation. 5 million years later, we're still following the path they first carved through the simple yet revolutionary understanding that family isn't just about blood relations. It's about the choice to care for each other, learn from each other, and face the future together.